the banking crisis. So with the banking crisis, Rubini is saying, basically very similar to what I've been saying, which is that most U.S. banks are technically near insolvency. In terms of dollar value of assets held, the failed banks are already comparable to 2008. And in fact, as of this week, they've passed them, with 3 of the 4 largest bank failures in U.S. history just happening within the last few weeks, okay? This is not like a small thing. It's not isolated. It's not that the banking crisis is over. Stanford study found that there's $2.2 trillion in unrealized loss in many other banks that are similarly exposed. And so, the issue is, though, if it's not just a debt ceiling crisis, not just a banking crisis, but wait, there's more. There's many more things that are breaking. So here's commercial real estate. Morgan Stanley thinks this could be worse than the financial crisis, okay? 40% downturn is what they're projecting. Here's the bond crisis. So 2022 is the worst year on record for bonds in a long time. And that's because the government devalued lots of bonds, and everybody holds bonds. And that's why in The Guardian, they're saying, is this financial crisis 2.0? So life insurers are sweating for money, and it's coming out of portfolios that are underwater for the same reasons as others, okay? How about the fiscal crisis? This is a partisan article, but it's true that there's $1.4 trillion in unfunded pensions, okay? Here's the auto loan problem. $1.4 trillion in auto loans with defaults spiking. Then there's the student loans. So these were put on suspend for 3 years. You have $1.8 trillion as a problem here, and payments are going to resume. You've got credit card debt. That's $930 billion, round up to roughly $1 trillion. That's also at all-time highs. And there's yet more things that are breaking globally, okay? You have the Ukraine crisis, where that's $75 billion directly, according to the Council on Foreign Relations, and it's more than $1 trillion indirectly. How do we know? Well, it's $800 billion just for energy subsidies in Europe, 800 billion euros, about 700 billion USD at last exchange rate. So that alone is just this massive thing, and of course the indirect costs of all the businesses that are failing because of all these spiking energy costs. You have de-dollarization. Some people are denying this happening. This is a whole video I could do on its own, but de-dollarization is happening at a stunning pace, according to Stephen Jen at Bloomberg. There's China's yuan, there's India internationalizing its rupee. Many, many countries, dozens of countries, are partially or fully moving away from the dollar. If you are seeing fire alarms, you're seeing klaxons, then you exit, whatever that means to you. Personally, as I said, I'm like 10% months, 70% years, 90% decades, 1% centuries. You should figure out what your own percentage is there. If you think that all of this is totally stupid, and the U.S. of course has infinite hit points and the Fed can print forever, then you're at centuries and you should ignore all of this. But if you have some probability that actually system collapse may happen sooner than people think, then you should, take appropriate action, whatever that means to you. So March 16, 2008, massive bank failure. April 10th, 2008, Bernanke assures the world it's maybe a mild recession. September 15th, 2008, just 158 days later, okay, we're in the middle of the global financial crisis. And crucially, Yellen didn't warn you. This article came out years later. Yellen feared housing bust, but did not raise public alarm. That is what I'm doing at my own expense. I'm raising public alarm, okay? Now, if you fast forward, okay, the thing is, 15 years ago, collapse came in 158 days, but right now, is history repeating? Because in March of 2023, you have a giant bank failure, where the Fed involved. In April of 2023, just almost 15 years to the day after these events of 2008, you have, again, the chair of the Federal Reserve getting up and saying it's going to be a mild recession. And God only knows how many days we have until, if and when, a fiat crisis happens. Is it exactly 158? Who knows? It's probably in the election year is when it might happen if political conflict gets to an extreme, but who knows? You really can't